What is up, Regigigas fans? My name is Eben, and as we get closer and closer to states, less than 3 weeks away when I'm recording this, I'm starting to think about more competitive builds. States will be standard, at least for me in my area, and so I'm thinking about more competitive builds that I can potentially take to states. So Manectric Bats is a deck I'm really quite fond of. I like Bats, I like Manectric, I think they're really cool. So I thought this deck would be an interesting thing to take a look at and playtest around with. It's definitely a deck you could consider taking as well. It does really well against decks like Night March. They're going to be pretty common, we expect. So anyway, enough ado there. We run 3 Manectric EX because his overrun is amazing, and Assault Laser scores some pretty crucial KOs, including on things that are much anticipated to be seen like Yveltal EX. A lot of builds run one Seismitoad EX. I like running 2 because you run the heavy DCEs anyway, and I don't want him to be prized, and that kind of cuts you off. And Seismitoad is very powerful, and with 2, you can have a second one ready to go in case the first gets KO'd. So I do like running 2, that's why. I'm also running 1 Jolteon EX. This new card from Generations is pretty amazing. I think it's very, very underrated. It does have 160 HP, but it also has free retreat. It's kind of hard to tell because you got this little weird shiny thing here, but it is in fact a free retreat. Its swift attack for 1 energy is 30, which isn't a bad first turn attack, especially since it pierces through all effects. But its second attack for a lightning and a DCE, so it fits right in, is 70 damage, and it prevents all damage during the next turn from your opponent's basic Pokemon when they try to attack it. So it just completely walls so many things. Like Night Marchers, for example, can't touch it. Seismitoad, can't touch it. Darkrai, can't touch it. There's so many things that have difficulty dealing with this Flash Ray. It's by no means invincible, but it's an excellent card to have teched in that we can easily power up quickly with just a Lightning and a DCE. Now, to the Bats part, I've run Bats enough to know that actually the smaller high evolution lines of the Bats are actually just fine to run. So for this build, we're running 2 Crobats, just 2. That's all we really need because we're going to AZ and Super Scoop up a lot anyway. We're running 3 Golbats, and finally we are, of course, running 4 Zubats to make sure we've got it, because part of this is we want to have lots of Zubats so that when we Super Scoop up or AZ, we can quickly just go ahead and replay them straight down and not necessarily have to use that same Zubat from our hand, because that one will make us wait a turn, obviously, since it would have just come into play. In our last 2 Pokemon, we're running 2 Shaman EX, once again to kind of avoid prizing all our Shamans if we just ran 1. And yeah, just the maximized draw power. It's kind of dumb. Now, as far as supporters go, we're running 3 Sycamores because we don't want to Sycamore too very much with our Bats, so we are opting for 3 over 4. We're running 1 Birch's Observations. It's kind of an evolution line friendly draw option. Our kind of obligatory Judge to kind of help mess up our opponents and still have draw power and whatnot. It's very nice versus secret target. We're running Giovanni's Scheme, mainly because this guy's plus 20 ability can be extremely useful for picking up KOs, especially with Manectric. So it's definitely worth using for that, and the draw power is not bad either. So it's just a nice little option to have. AZ for all the obvious reasons in this build. Lysander for arguably even more obvious reasons. And our final supporter is 1 Zerosic. This is a pretty useful supporter for us because it can pick off special energies in certain matchups for decks that are really relying on DCE, etc. So he is definitely worth having, and he's a versus secret target, so he's a little more reliable than Starling Megaphone, which you're basically only going to use once unless you want to run multiple copies. So onto the items, we're running 4 versus Seeker. We're opting for 4 Ultra Balls. We've got 2 Battle Compressors. This is just kind of to set up our supporters. We're running 3 Trainer's Mail. And a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory by now, so I'm not going to bother saying too much about them. We're running 4 Super Scoop Up just to kind of maximize the chances that we get them and that they go off successfully. We're running 3 Muscle Band. I'm thinking of using Fighting Fury Belt here instead, or some combination of the 2. But I've opted for Muscle Band because I think it's a little bit better for Jolteon EX, whose 70 turns into 90 with a Muscle Band, and 2 90s is 180, so that's pretty nice. But the Fighting Fury Belt does give things like Seismitoad a lot more longevity, makes them harder to one-hit KO, and that's nice, and the same is true for Manectric. So we'll see. Of course, Muscle Band can also help Crobat, which Fighting Fury Belt cannot since it's an evolution. We're also running 2 Rough Seas. It's not absolutely necessary to have it, but it's nice to be able to take out other stadiums, and the healing power can be nice, especially if we, say, retreat something that takes some damage. The ability to heal it over several turns is pretty nice, like the Jolteon or the Manectric. So, good thing to have around. 2 Headringers. These are to make sure our Assault Laser on our Manectric EXs go off, and of course they can also be used for stalling things, so they're pretty nice. We've got 1 town map so that we can definitely cherry pick prizes. This is especially useful because of our bats and to a lesser extent Manectric's ability to hit easy targets on the bench and potentially pick up prizes that we might not otherwise. But especially since the bats can pick up prizes during our turn, the ability to pick up that one specific prize can be very important. So we are running town map for that reason. And our last item, we are running a Super Rod. It's nice for getting back bats, which is most of what it does, but on the off chance we have to ditch a lot of basic energies early on, that can be painful. So I like the option on Super Rod to go get those and bring them back so we're not just up the creek, so to speak. So it's a good one to run. It's a good option. We've also got 4 double colorless energy, which is just so painfully obvious. And our last cards are, of course, 4 lightning energies, because we're not really planning to attack with Seismitoad's Grenade Hammer, so just the DCE is fine for him, or in a pinch, the lightnings, of course, which are mainly here for Manectric and Jolteon. And that is the deck, and just like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill by now. My Twitter link is down below. Go ahead and follow me. You find out all kinds of cool things every now and then. I'll retweet stuff out that's pretty cool from other people. You know, why not? But I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you next time.